oh my God, here's something I've got to say once I'm in a better place to record somewhere else. I'm going to have to give this talk. It's that novel that we've had language for thousands of years. We've had the written language, thousands and thousands of years. We've had written language. And only within the past, like few hundred years, 600 years, have novels come about. Before that, there was never anything, such a thing as a novel. It's like, of course, someone like me or any of us, we grow up and we grow up within a history of novels. So we're surrounded by them our entire life. And so our perspective on them, we don't realize actually how novel they actually are, how unique and anomalous they actually are. Just a few hundred years. I think some of the first ones were Italian. Robinson Crusoe was one of the very first ones in English. I've had some things to say about that. But I think even the older writings, way before the novel, you have historical writings and mythological writings and philosophical writings and political writings. And those are far more interesting. Like the oldest philosophical books are some of my favorite. Heraclitus. I love the philosophy of Heraclitus. And then Plato, of course. Socrates, the great protagonist. The great learner. The great clown, the great ignoramus, Socrates. So far, Socrates hasn't been in any great novels that I've known. But I wonder where he comes up in Finnegans Wake. I mean, I'm sure he's there. I'm sure he's got to be there. Finnegans Wake. Finnegans Wake has everything, and Plato is so pivotal, and the dialogues. And yet, as it turns out, the novel, it's still really, really hard to do really well. I mean, you can do it. It's not hard to do pretty good, but I think, I mean, it's a real task, but what a new art. It's a really real, like, new kind of art. It's a renaissance, in fact. The novel, I think, was born in Renaissance thought. That's probably what happened. Right? Think about it. That's probably what happened. The novel was born out of Renaissance thought, out of the library of San Lorenzo and the Dome of Florence, and out of Raphael and Da Vinci, his horses, his horse statues. That was the best. That was like Da Vinci's best. I mean, well, the Library of San Lorenzo, that was he was just really the great architect and sculptor. As a painter, I mean, there are better painters, plenty of better painters than Da Vinci. To call the Mona Lisa great, I think it's people, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to know. I don't know what people look. People, if you study it, everything blossoms with study, right? A lot of these ideas you probably didn't realize how fascinating they were until you heard someone talking about them. Like the same thing goes with Finnegans Wake. It's like I didn't think it was that interesting, until I heard someone talking about it. That was Terence McKenna, and then I was like, really? There's something here? You're joking. Tell me about it then. What does he have to say? This great thinker, McKenna, a great thinker of the 20th century, and philosopher, and theorist as well. And polymathic, his interests were great, and he had something to say about that. His talk on the Voynich manuscript is the best. But he did a talk on Finnegans Wake, which just reopened my eyes. I said, really? You mean this is real? There's something here that's not just gobbledygook? It takes a while. Like the first time you go there, you have to be convinced that it's gobbledygook. You will be convinced that it's a heap of trash. And Joyce knows that as well. He's repelling you. There's a huge wake. You approach something, a giant with a giant wake. And if you just try to move toward it, it's going to repel you. The force of it is rushing so fast and so furiously. And it's such a deep river that it just pushes you away onto the banks of incomprehension. That's what happens with it. And that's what he meant to happen. And so the analogy of the trash dump is thick throughout all of the wake. It's there. The analogy of the trash dump, the trash heap. As are so many other analogies. So Socrates has got to be there as well. And so the Finnegans Wake, it's the great novel of all novels. It's really the apotheosis of all novels. And it was meant to be so. And there will never be another Wake, another Finnegans Wake. I mean, there will be other books, no doubt, and other novels, but people like who try too hard to be like Finnegans Wake, I think, end up sort of fading away into their own sort of puff a lot of the time, because right? You can think Joyce was just another writer like other writers, but if you look into it, man, the guy was a magical mystery. He was a bard. He was a great bard. And that's what you learn, and you realize that by McKenna's talk. And so we listen to what McKenna has to say, and so he inspires us. And before that, we thought it was just a nothing subject, nothing there. Why waste your time? There's nothing there. It's nothing. Finnegans Wake, it's absolutely nothing. Why waste your time? What? McKenna? What? Are you serious? And so, right? So I take a look. That's how it works. That's exactly how it works. So, language opens us up, and before that, the doors are closed, and our ignorance, like we know not what we are ignorant of. So the literary novel is a great art, a great artifice. And the greatest literary novels in the world since then have come about, like Dostoevsky and Salvador Dali and many other of the great writers. The greatest writers, Marcel Proust, the greatest novelists of all time. If you just want to put it concisely, that's what we're talking about. The greatest novelists of all time. And yet, all time being just since the past 300-400 years, 500 years, whatever it is, since Robin Hood. Yeah, it's the age, right? Novels. There were stories, though. Stories are old, but the novel as a thing is really unique and new. Stories are old. The Thousand and One Nights, ancient stories, right? Ovid, ancient stories. But I like the old philosophy, Diogenes and Heraclitus and Plato and Aristotle. And the old classics, the old thinkers, they were great. They were such great thinkers. We, in the modern age, we're not outdoing the greats of classic times. We're not outdoing the greats. So, I mean, Dali was, I think, the last great novelist. You know, of course, people will still continue to write, and there are many great things to write since then, and so forth, right? Of course. But when you try to emulate it, like emulating Finnegans Wake, that's not going to work, right? Like, is it Pynchon, right? Pynchon, who wrote the Gravity's Rainbow, right? So I got the book and I'm looking at it, and it's seeming like it's really creating. And I got the skeleton, a guide to it a little bit too, because it's one of those things like Finnegans Wake. You need a guide. You need the skeleton key. And thank God we have Joseph Campbell was brave and bold enough to write just that very thing, which is the skeleton key to Finnegans Wake. He did it. That's it. Joseph Campbell. Thank you very much. Skeleton Key to Finnegans Wake. And so, like many great books, but it was Terence who told me about that. It's through Terence that I found that. And most of so many other great books I've learned about through Terence, because Terence was the one that brought my attention to other great books. He even likes Gravity's Rainbow as well. But, you know, he also liked Philip K. Dick a lot, and I don't care for that. And I find the kind of like the sci-fi, I appreciate more like the sci-fi realism of The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand, something like that. Like the devotion of an artist, a great architect. You know, of course, all of the classic American sci-fi, right? The This Perfect Day, 1984, Brave New World. You know, I didn't think much of that one about the Fahrenheit 451. Was a little ill-conceived and seemed hastily put together kind of book, as most books are, lots of books are. That's the thing. Finnegans Wake, it appears to be completely hastily put together, and it's the opposite. That's the thing. It's entirely the opposite. And that's the great mystery of Finnegans Wake. And that's the great stamp of perfection on McKenna's art as well. It was McKenna's stamp of artistic perfection, undoubtedly. Finnegans Wake. That paradox that it can seem like the most hastily put together piece of sort of like just shifty, haphazard wit of the hoi polloi, and random and spasmodic ejaculations onto the page, hastily wrought. I don't think that Finnegans Wake is that at all. No, that's what turns out to be not to be true. That's what it appears to be. That's why I'm saying that's the big joke, is he wrote a book that absolutely, for all purposes of any normal human being, if you were to come across, if you're alone on an island like Robinson Crusoe, and you come across this book and then you try to read it, you'll go mad, or you'll declare it's a product of madness. That's what it is. You'll defend your own sanity and declare it's a product of madness. And that's the irony, is that, in fact, no, it's our madness that pushes this, that labels this as madness and incomprehensible gibberish. That's our madness that does it. That's the irony within the wake. So, and that's why it's probably going to be up there. It's what it is. It's more than a novel. It's the fairy, a kind of a fairy Bible. It's the Bible of Elfin or fairyland, in a kind of a real sort of way, in a real sort of way. That's what it is. It's a Bible of fairyland. Finnegans Wake. And there's like deep, magical, mystical, enlightened meaning. That's good-spirited, good-hearted, and beneficial in so many ways. That's really what it is, because it's just the delight in its kind of pure beauty on its own is enough to redeem Finnegans Wake as just a marvelous and mystical masterpiece of boundless complexity and rigorous genius. Right? It's not madness. It's not a trash heap. And he's using that as an analogy as well. The trash heap analogy is all throughout the wake, as well as all real analogies within all novel writing. So you go back to Dante. Dante was one of the first, the birth of the Christian, the religious novel, the birth of the novel in a sort of way through some kind of mystical descent and rebirth in a way. It was because before that we had poetry. That's what it was. Like Paradise Lost by Milton and all those great poets of times of old. Although, I mean, I guess you could say Shakespeare was a novelist. Absolutely. Those are novels. They're short stories in a way, but as the best novels are, they can be oftentimes better encapsulated within 10 to 20 pages than they can between 200 to 300 pages. Although I like long novels as well, like especially Hermann Hesse. His long novels are brilliant and beautiful. And then Dostoevsky, just fascinating. He's so good. Dali's novel was not long enough. It was just too short. It was too succulently good to be so short. Even though it wasn't that short, it was just sort of normal for a novel. It wasn't a short novel. It was a normal-sized novel. It wasn't long, but it wasn't short. And it was thick and brilliant. And it was his only novel, Dali. So, thanks for listening and tolerating my diversions into literary talk and thought into contemporary trends and issues which are important for which I find important for the world and so forth. And so I appreciate you forbearing with me. I do want to always encourage you to subscribe and share my videos and show your support verbally and leave your questions and comments. And then to help my channel grow, the algorithm's not helping me at all. It's only hindering me. So any help I can get always helps, because there's almost zero organic growth. And I sell my art through my playlists, Rhythms of Light. I've got 5 of them, my own graphic works, paintings mostly. And so that will fund my channel if you feel like showing your support. And I do want to encourage you to stay subscribed and listen out. I have a lot of new guitar solos to bring you real soon. I'm going to go back, finish up all of these talks really soon, and go back to publishing music for all of you. I hope you're all there. I hope you're all happy. I hope you're all listening. I hope you all still like me. And I hope to hear that and hear from you and hear you chime in as well with your point of view, and a wink and a cheer and a holler. And that's always nice to keep things positive and constructive here on my Rhythms Riddle channel on YouTube. And also now you can find me on BitChute as well. BITCHUTE is the .com. And if you go there and search for Rhythms Riddle, you'll probably find me. And also my name, you'll search for me there as well. But, we'll see how long I'll be there. Again, thanks for listening so much. Thank you very much. And have a great day.